Hey folks, welcome back to the lore of Zelda's famous locations. As per results of your voting for which game I should cover next in this series, today we'll be looking at Link's indisputably craziest adventure, Majora's Mask. The Zelda game on an acid trip. This adventure into the land of Termina is an experience, and without a doubt the most insane Zelda story. From the moon falling destined to destroy the world, to the hero himself transforming into different creatures. It's one of the most complicated and tricky games to cover in terms of theories and lore. However, I accept that challenge, and with this series focus on the lore of the famous locations, and I'm very excited to get into this one. These videos take a wee bit of extra work to make, so if you could do me a massive favour by dropping a cheeky wee like down below, as well as consider subscribing for more fabulous regular Zelda content coming your way, then that'd be massively appreciated. Oh, and a little birdie told me I have a Discord server that you're more than welcome to join via the link below. And with that, there's only one thing left to do, and that's be sure to go and grab yourself a snack and drink, folks. Send them in on my socials for a chance to be featured right here in a future video. And let's now take a look at the lore of The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask's famous locations. Normally I start these videos at Hyrule Castle, however in Majora's Mask there is no Hyrule Castle, so we'll start at the next best thing, the hub of Termina, Clock Town. A dodecagon encased settlement in the heart of Termina. This is where Link's adventure truly gets underway as he enters from the clock tower. It's an extremely lively and bustling place. There's something going on around every corner. There's simply too many individual buildings and characters to highlight them all, but they are all really interesting to at least some degree. From the town bank to the laundry pool, the mayor's house to the trading post. It's full of life and cheerfulness despite the incoming moon ready to destroy it all, which is funny enough a big part of what gives the residents here their personality. We see true humanity here, as some residents are extremely concerned, as others just see it as a hoax that will pass. This is very real when bad situations arise, and it brings a unique flavour of emotion to Clocktown. It's split into 4 sections: North, South, West and East. The main site here is of course the Clock Tower, the place in which Link first emerges from after being turned into a Deku Scrub. This famous centrepiece of town plays a big part in the Carnival of Time, a celebration which is coming up in the next few days. This is a time where the people of Termina get together and pray for a good harvest in the coming year. At midnight of the carnival, people await the clock tower's entrance opening up, allowing access to the top of the tower so people can make their way up here and pray and sing ceremonial songs to the gods. This is very interesting lore which is easy to miss. This is also of course where Link finally catches up with the Skull Kid possessed by Majora's Mask, and thankfully retrieves his ocarina in order to transform back into his Hylian form, as well as go back in time a few days and restart the 3-day cycle. Smaller points of interest to highlight are the fun designs of buildings both inside and out, but other than that there isn't much lore, so instead enjoy this brief highlight reel of some of the sites. To the south of Clocktown we can find the Woodfall region, a forest covered in green, oddities round every corner, and a long forgotten temple deep within. The first famous site I'd like to highlight in Woodfall is the Deku Palace, the home of Deku Scrubs. Formerly just minor characters found throughout the world in Ocarina of Time, but now expanded into their own miniature kingdom within the woods. This expansion of their lore is fascinating. The palace features many layers. It's first reached from the southern swamp, and we get a wee taste of the style with this wooden log wall, painted in Deku colours. Upon passing through here and reaching the outside of the palace, we see these massive walls, which contain 2 royal gardens, heavily guarded by Deku scrubs. Link must sneak through both of these gardens in order to gain access to the royal chamber, or at least where the monkey is, as otherwise the Deku guards will throw him out. These grounds are strictly for the Deku only. On the inside we find the Deku King's chamber, which is a beautifully decorated room with a fire pit in the middle, as well as the prison cell, previously mentioned, on the left. This is where Link enters to help free the captured monkey. The overall design and culture of this place is very tribal and forest based. Everything is made of wood, decorated in tribal-like paints. They appear to grow plants in the gardens and generally live from the resources of the land. It's secure as can be, and I haven't even mentioned the moat of poisonous water that surrounds the palace. There's also a secret labyrinth known as the Deku Shrine, which Link can dare to adventure within if he wants to seek out the Mask of Sense. Now, when it comes to the lore and history of this place, we're left rather in the dark. As you might know, this game was made in a very short time period, so as well as reusing a lot of assets from Ocarina of Time, not everything has a ton of official information behind it. However, as a theory and lore enthusiast, I find questions to ask, such as, how long have the Deku Scrubs had this deep culture and life within the woods? When we saw them in Ocarina of Time, the previous game, they just seemed to burrow around the land and live in small groups. Whereas here, they have essentially their own miniature kingdom deep within Woodfall. Not too far from the palace, back in the southern swamp, we can also find the entrance to the Woods of Mystery. Mysteriously mysterious woods that are a mystery. I'll get the obvious out of the way. These woods are another version of the Lost Woods seen in Ocarina of Time, a magical maze with 4 directions to head in, but if you take a wrong turn, you'll become lost and end up right where you started. Fun fact, in the French version of Majora's Mask, they're actually just called the Lost Woods. Now, unlike the Lost Woods previously seen in a deep forest in Ocarina of Time, the Woods of Mystery take on a more tropical woodland look. Our reason for entering is part of the questline to take the swamp boat tour run by Kyume, but first Link must rescue her as she was attacked by the Skull Kid. He follows a monkey through the woods in order to not get lost. They're a fun wee part of this region, but in terms of lore and mysteries, I have some questions. Thinking in terms of the in-game Zelda universe, what exactly are these woods? At this point, we've seen 2 near identical woodlands with the same magical properties and travellers becoming lost with ease, and laid out the exact same way. Why is that? And where exactly is this enchantment coming from? In Ocarina of Time, it's easily explained as the work of the Great Deku Tree to protect the Kokiri. However, in Majora's Mask, there isn't an obvious answer. We could look to the Deku King perhaps and suggest he maybe has magic put over this area to further protect his people and avoid outsiders coming in. You could also argue that it's the work of Kotake and Kyume, as whilst not obvious witches in this game, they were in the last, but neither are super strong suggestions nor have much backing them. One other suggestion could be that it's the work of Adolwa, the god of Woodfall and boss to the temple found in this region. Adolwa is a tribal warrior and considered the god of this region, so if anyone is capable of this kind of magic, then maybe it was him. I obviously can't say that for sure, but it's my best idea to answer this insanely overthought question, the life of a Zelda lore enthusiast. Now, whilst we're on the topic of Adolwa, I can't not mention the mighty Woodfall Temple. I've said before that in this series I try to avoid covering dungeons as dungeons, but when their lore is interesting, I can't say no. However, if you are interested in videos about dungeons as dungeons, then definitely check out my good friend Kat Bergeson's videos. He goes over Zelda dungeons and they are some of the best Zelda videos on YouTube. It's found in this large area of the swamp. At first, it's not even here. In order to access the ancient temple, Link must play the Sonata of Awakening, a song he learned from the monkey trapped in the Deku Palace. This will erect the temple from deep within the swamp. A proper old school temple covered in foliage, debris, and a wee bit of poisonous water. On the inside, it's quite something. Beautiful ancient architecture like nothing we've seen in the series. A focus on bugs and insects such as butterflies and beetles. Mysterious markings markings on the floors and walls, as well as a layout not really designed for Hylians like Link. It appears to be made for the Deku to traverse with ease, so it's some sort of ancient Deku temple by the looks of things. But where this gets even more interesting in terms of lore is the boss room. In here, we find more markings on the ground, but most intriguingly of all is this pair of statues. What and or who are they? Is this two individuals or two of the same individual? They appear alien-like with their large eyes and facial structure. Could they perhaps be the same as Adowa? Possibly in worship to him and or a partner. Maybe in ancient times the Deku came here to worship their god, the god of Woodfall. It certainly seems that's what the Woodfall temple was for at some point in time. The statues being Adowa and or a partner would also make a lot of sense as to why he's found in this main room. Maybe back in the day, this was some sort of throne room for the masked jungle warrior. In the north of Termina, we can find the chilly Snowhead region, a dense sub-zero snowy mountain, home of the Gorons and very few in between. I'll be honest, it's not my favourite region in this game, which is odd because I normally love areas like this, but I just don't in Majora's Mask. But alas, there are still points of interest within this mountain range to look at, and where better to start than the home of the Gorons. Goron Village. Not the most insanely lore-heavy place, but worth going over the Goron culture and lifestyle. Due to the overly frozen climate of the mountains right now, most of the Gorons can be found inside the Goron Shrine, the main building in the centre of the village. Inside here is best described as hell. That is because the Goron Elder's son is crying without stop. That is until Link shows up and plays the Goron lullaby, soothing the soul of the wee man. The shrine itself shows us that Goron culture is just as strong as it was in Ocarina of Time. Very tribal, painted, carved and designed for one big family of brothers. On the outside there is a fairly lore-heavy location floating just across from the shrine. This is the Lone Peak Shrine. A suspended cave that can only be accessed via the invisible platforms. But what's interesting is the contents inside. In here, Link can find the magical Sheikah artifact, the Lens of Truth. A magnifying glass-like lens that reveals what cannot be seen to the naked eye. This item first appeared in Ocarina of Time, a creation of the Sheikah. But why exactly is it found up here in the home of the Gorons? The Sheikah aren't exactly present in Termina. It's not really explained as to why the Gorons have it, but it does end up coming in handy as it's used in order to see the deceased Darmani III, a now past Goron who Link helps rest in peace. All whilst gaining the Goron mask required to progress to the dungeon of this area. Speaking of which, Snowhead Temple. As mentioned, I don't tend to focus much on the dungeons as dungeons in this series, but it's definitely worth mentioning as it's quite the stunning spectacle to look at. The other location of interest to me up here is the Mountain Village, for two reasons. Firstly, this home right here. Inside we can find the mountain smithy duo, Gabora and Zabora, a pair of blacksmiths who can upgrade and sharpen Link's swords, creating new, more powerful swords for the hero to use. But even more interesting in this village is the Goron Graveyard. Found atop a high cliff looking over the wee village, this is the resting place of the Gorons, and where Link goes with the spirit of Darmani III to help him rest in peace. It's a sort of sandy room with these large purple, crystal-like, presumably tombstones. It's not crazy insane lore, but we do get a cool insight to what a Goron grave looks like for someone who is considered a Goron hero. Rest in peace, Darmani III. Off to the west of Termina is the Great Bay region, a coastal shoreline that would depress even the happiest of happy mass salesmen. It's grey, grim and quiet. Link first enters the beach area only to find a dying Zora in the water, Mikau, the guitarist of the Zora band, the Indie-Go-Go's. Link helps him rest in peace and in return gains a new mask. In terms of location lore, there isn't tons on the actual coastline if you ask me. However, the area is stunning in the gritty nature of this game, from the Waterfall Rapids to the Zora Cape. It's beautiful. I'd also like to give special mention to the Fisherman's Hut, who has this poster of a Gerudo pirate. He gets it. The first location of particular interest for me is the Zora Hall. Like with the Gorons, the Zora Hall gives us a cool look at Zora life in this adventure. A seaside-based group, which is interesting as it shows us that the Zora can thrive in both fresh water, as seen in Ocarina of Time, but also salt water. The Zora Hall is a large cave system full of waterfalls and pools, large decorative shells, and arguably one of the coolest Zora's domains in the series. Their culture appears to be stronger than ever, even having a famous band, despite the guitarist having recently passed away. But in the homeland of the Zora, the most lore-heavy location that piques my interest is actually of Gerudo origins. The Pirate Fortress is a large metal-made stronghold home to the Gerudo pirates. They've changed a fair bit from the last game they appeared in Ocarina of Time, where they were warriors out in the desert. As Termina doesn't have a desert, the Gerudo have become pirates. This daunting fortress is massive, fit with 2 large spike-topped entrances, a watchtower, skull flags, pirate sword symbols, and Gerudo pirate baddies, warriors, Gerudo pirate warriors all over the place who are very well trained in combat. Link enters this place to recover stolen Zora eggs, but has to be very careful as well as go head to head with a few of these pirates. Fit with dual blades, they are tough opponents, but the hero is successful. This place is insanely awesome, and whilst not directly connected in lore to the Forsaken Fortress seen in the Wind Waker, it does share some of the same symbolism, which is cool because this place is actually the same as the Gerudo Fortress seen in Ocarina of Time. The Gerudo becoming pirates happened in more than one timeline split. The dungeon of this area, the Great Bay Temple, is interesting. It's accessed via a giant turtle, due to a curse on the area, but once in, we discover that it's actually a factory of some sort, showing us that in some ways Termina is more advanced than Hyrule, which is some really cool lore if you ask me. It's not quite clearly exactly what the facility does, but it's obviously something with water, perhaps filtration or energy, or fishing or something, I don't know. It's a cool fact that sometimes flies under the radar when talking about this location. Now for, in my opinion, the most Majora's Mask location in Majora's Mask. The Ikana region, home to an ancient castle and lost kingdom, dark secrets beneath the graves, and a stone tower with a challenge for the hero. The ancient castle of Ikana is now a derelict hollow shell of what once was a mighty kingdom, now filled with undead enemies such as Redeads and Wallmasters, additionally patrolled by the Gero, who, whilst trying to kill Link, also provide him with interesting information about the fallen kingdom and castle upon defeat. It is sort of a dungeon in itself, but also a history lesson for the lost kingdom and people of Ikana, and we even meet the former king, King Aigos du Ikana, and his 2 minions in the throne room. This is where Link is taught the Elegy of Emptiness, which is required to progress inside the stone tower, which is also where the king pushes Link in the direction of. The Stone Tower dungeon is made up of 3 buildings, and sort of moves around in complex ways. Link needs the Elegy of Emptiness in order to traverse it. We don't quite know exactly why this was built, but we do learn that it holds back some sort of evil. In the words of the king, the winds of darkness blow through, and Link must close the door. Perhaps it was some sort of sacred shrine to wear off evil on their land, but that is a purely speculative guess. Ikana Village and Graveyard are also quite interesting. This was once a home for many. One home in particular that's worth looking at is the Music Box House. It has a large phonogram atop to blast music to wear off Gibdos, an odd but yet really smart solution. There's even a really fun questline involving this house and Pamela, along with her father. As for the notable graveyard, we can meet a familiar face here, Dampé. Once again the Gravekeeper and Digger. Alongside him, we can even venture down into the graves with the help of some stall children and explore the lost remains beneath the graveyard, including the grave of Flat, one of 2 composer brothers. This former kingdom once had soldiers for days, a captain at the top of the ranks, and an entire monarchy system all within the valley. Lost Kingdoms are fascinating to explore, and Ikana is one of the coolest in my opinion. It's a shame we don't see it in its prime, despite things looking a bit better after completing the stone tower, but at the same time, it's not knowing what they truly looked like in their prime that makes lost ancient kingdoms like this, of the past, so interesting. Off to the southwest of Clocktown, we can find Romani Ranch, the home of the famous Chateau Romani milk, owned by Cremia, who lives here with her sister Romani. Prior to the events of the game, the father of the sisters passed away, but he left the ranch to them, with its special Romani bred cows that produce the special Chateau Romani milk. I didn't know why I said it like that. Famously known and enjoyed across Termina. There's a wee bit of beef between Romani Ranch and the Gorman brothers and their ranch. Part of the game is helping out with these issues, which are really just the brothers being giant heads. Now, the really fascinating and genuinely mysterious lore of this ranch occurs at night. Romani tells Link that she's been practicing for the arrival of the ghost-like creatures that come to the ranch, and steal cows every year when the Carnival of Time approaches. Cremia doesn't believe her, but Link can find out for himself by staying as night falls and witness one of the Zelda series' biggest mysteries. At 2:30 in the morning, they arrive. Strange alien ghost creatures, and throughout the course of the night, Link must fight alongside Romani to protect the ranch. But in terms of lore, what on earth are they? There has been a real-world mystery connection, as they strike a strong resemblance to the Flatwoods monster, a West Virginian folklore creature. But what exactly do they want with Romani Ranch and the cows? Well, they appear to be depicted as abductors, extraterrestrial creatures from another world. Perhaps they want the cows to research or test on them. Or maybe, just maybe, they want some of that sweet Chateau Romani. It's like many real-world mysteries. Few are said to have actually seen them. Not many truly believe they're real, but as for those who have claimed to have seen them, in this case, have actually seen them, it's a very real and puzzling mystery of Romani Ranch. Let's take this back to the true beginning of Majora's Mask. Not in Clocktown, but rather the Lost Woods. This game opens with Link leaving the Kingdom of Hyrule, set on a personal quest to find Navi, who left him at the end of Ocarina of Time. In the Lost Woods, he is attacked by the Skull Kid, seen wearing Majora's Mask. He steals Epona from Link and a chase begins. This leads Link to hop up on these mushrooms and head into an entrance to a large tree. It leads him to a high edge, and in a moment of lost composure, Link falls down, and this is exactly where every debate about what this game really is begins. This entire fall is heavily debated as to the true canon lore. Is this Link dying? Is this Link teleporting to another realm? Or is this all purely symbolic? There just isn't a clear answer. All we truly know is that the entrance to Termina is found somewhere deep within the already mysterious and magical Lost Woods, an already existing location seen in Ocarina of Time, slightly expanded in how it's traversed as seen right here. Perhaps that fact points this in the direction of a parallel realm or world, which would also add up with why there are so many familiar faces, in terms of in-game lore anyway. But the truth is, the lore here is a mystery. As the game comes towards the final boss battle against Majora, Link and Tatl must venture to the moon, the threat that has been looming high above for this entire adventure. But it's not as you'd expect. It's not how it looks from below, rather it's a different realm almost. Upon following Majora's Mask after discarding the Skull Kid's body, Link and Tatl are transported to this luscious grassy field with a lone tree atop a slight hill, known as the Grassy Playfield. We can find the Moon Children, 4 youngsters wearing the remains of the game's 4 bosses in the form of masks. They say interesting things, deep questions to test your mentality. Stuff like, the right thing, what is it? I wonder, if you do the right thing, does it make everybody happy? Or Your friends, what kind of people are they? I wonder, do these people think of you as a friend? It makes you wonder just who these children are and why they're asking these questions. If Link speaks to and hands over his masks, they'll transport him to special dungeons. If Link trades all 20 non-transformation masks, he'll even be able to gain the Fierce Deity mask for the final boss battle. Speaking of which, there is a 5th child sitting by the tree, wearing Majora's mask. In an oddly calm manner, speaking to this child kicks off the final boss battle. But what exactly is up with the moon? Why are we taken to this grassy plain? Well, when Majora's mask left the Skull Kid for dead, its possession over the imp wasn't just for the sake of it. Majora then went on to possess the moon and ensure it continues to crash down towards Termina, overpowering the 4 giants holding it back. So it could be described that this is a vision or creation of Majora, a peaceful playing field, but at the heart of destruction. But another way to look at this in terms of the lore is this location is to take the view of the heavily debated theory that this game is either not real or a process of Link's death. That famous game theory which, whether you're for or against, it's a massive talking point. And whilst I don't personally believe this game is showing us the stages of grief and Link having died after falling down the tree, but I admit there are a lot of valid points to it, as well as the idea of this being a dream of sorts, which is something we've seen before in the Zelda series. Spoiler alert for a game released in 1993. Link's Awakening turns out to all be one big dream. So it's a valid thought to discuss. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that perhaps this final chapter of the game really shows us that it's a dream. I mean, a grassy plain inside the moon? That sounds like something ripped straight out of Random Dreams. This could all even link to why the Moon Children ask such deep questions. Like the majority of questions in this game, there is no solid answer. But between these two, I reckon it's more than likely a creation of Majora, but as to why, I cannot say. And for an even weirder and more unexplainable detail, the character model for the child wearing Majora's mask is none other than the Happy Mask Salesman. Following the final boss battle, the moon itself disintegrates, and this final famous location of the video no longer exists. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed, and if you did, then be sure to drop a wee like and consider subscribing for more fabulous Zelda content. Let me know what you think about these famous locations and their weird and wonderful lore, as well as mysteries, or anything I maybe missed. I aim to capture a peaceful but yet intriguing vibe to these videos, and I hope I achieved that. I'll be adding this to the Lore of Zelda's Famous Locations playlist if you'd like to check out the other episodes I've done so far, on Twilight Princess and The Wind Waker. Next up will be up to you guys. In the coming days following this video, I'll be releasing a poll on my YouTube community tab with options as to which game I cover next. So be sure to keep an eye out for that. As always, a massive shout out goes to my channel supporters, as your support helps massively to make videos like this one all the more possible. With a very special shout out to new member, Mickey. Thank you so much. If you'd like to financially back the channel and these videos, all whilst getting some goodies like my weekly inside scoop post, your name at the end of my videos, and a shout out when you join, then check out the supporting links in the description. You can also find my socials down there if you'd like to keep up to date with me. Thanks again for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day or night, folks. And until the next time, I've been Hyrule Gamer.